The World Series. Oh, man, oh, man. The Rangers, my pick, versus the Arizona Diamondbacks, not the Philadelphia Phillies. Thank you, Shane, for jinxing them. But this is going to be a fun series. Only the third time in MLB history, two wildcard teams will face each other in the World Series. Both the Diamondbacks and the Rangers lost 100 games in 2021 season. Only four other teams in the last 100 years have made the World Series after a 100-loss season. The Diamondbacks only won 84 games during the regular season, third lowest by a World Series representative. Bruce Bochy becomes the first manager in MLB history to make the World Series with three different teams. Bochy also becomes the first manager to make the World Series over 20 years removed from his first appearance, which was the Padres in 1998. The World Series. I'm going to be excited to watch because Texas and Arizona were not expected to be here. Texas, who was a team last year that was one of the worst teams in baseball. They had over 100 losses. They bring in Bruce Bochy in the offseason. Everybody was questioning. They bring in some free agents. They bring in Jacob deGrom. They lost him before the season really even started. He pitched, how many games? Gone.
And that was it.
He was gone. Then they make a trade for Max Scherzer and Jordan Montgomery. When you talk about some of the guys that they brought in at the trade deadline and everything, there were a lot of questions to this team. And Garcia, what he did throughout the season, being that he was 30 years old, he's been in the league for quite a few years, and break out this season with Bruce Bochy. It was amazing to watch. And then Corey Seager having the season that he had. And Marcus Semien, who had a bad season last year, played better this year. This roster started to fall together in the second half of the season, got really, really hot, and then squeaked into the playoffs and just made a run. It was amazing what they did. Knocking off the Tampa Bay Rays the way they did, and then beating the Baltimore Orioles. I think they had the hardest way to the World Series in a very long time. The teams and the rosters they had to go through to get to the World Series, absolutely amazing. And that says a lot about Bruce Bochy because of who he is and what he has done. This guy has won everywhere he's gone. And that's what makes him one of the best managers we've ever seen and one of the winningest managers we've ever seen. If he wins a World Series with this Texas Rangers team, who's never won a World Series and has been there quite a few times and never got over the hump, if he does that, he could go down as one of the greatest managers to ever manage in baseball history. He's a great young player. This roster is good, and their farm system's even better. This is a loaded team, and Bruce Bochy, this isn't going to be the first time he goes here. If Bruce Bochy decides to stay here for 5 or 6 years, and he could. I didn't think Bruce Bochy was coming back to baseball because he left the Giants, and there were a lot of questions on why he left because they were still winning. Maybe he just didn't think that the roster was going to move any further than where it was. He retires, and then all of a sudden takes this Texas Ranger job. There was a lot of questions when he took this job. They weren't a good team. The Corey Seager and the Marcus Semien signing, a lot of people questioned. Giving Corey Seager $300 million.
In 8 years for somebody that injury prone.
And Marcus Semien, a guy that made $250 million. You gave two players $500 million. Seager had a decent season last year, but Marcus Semien's was horrible. And then the Jacob deGroms, that falling apart. Then you bring in Max Scherzer, that falling apart. There was so many things that happened to this roster all season long, but Bruce Bochy found a way to get this team over the hump. How about Evan Longoria going back to the World Series? Something that I never would have thought in my wildest dreams that I would hear Evan Longoria go to a World Series again. With all the years that he went to the Rays, never get over the hump. Maybe he has a chance to actually win a World Series with an Arizona team where he's 38 years old. He's on the tail end of his career. Evan Longoria has been one of the leaders of this team, pushed him to that next level. And Tommy Pham comes over here and gets hot in the second half of the season. Gurriel hitting the way he has in the playoffs. I don't know what to expect in this series. I expect Texas to come out the winner in 6. I think Texas is the better team, but who's to say that Arizona can't win?
Both teams are very similarly structured, but also similarly creative. The Diamondbacks did it a little differently with the younger pitchers, bringing them up and using them out of the bullpen. They did it with Brandon Pfaadt, who was a top 20 prospect in all of baseball. And then the last 2 games, as a starter, he pitched very well in Game 7 and in Game 3. Jordan Lawler, top 10 prospect in baseball, brought him up at the end of the year. Good stolen base guy to go along with the other young players that they have. Evan Longoria, he knows how that worked with the Rays. He was a rookie in 2008 when they went to the World Series. The Diamondbacks, young team that is also very athletic too. They're the perfect team if you want to look at how to build a team. That's the mold you want to build it on, especially these newer rules. I'm curious to see how aggressive they'll be on the base paths too against these older Rangers pitchers too. Nathan Eovaldi, Max Scherzer, John Gray, Jordan Montgomery. These are all older pitchers. Are they going to be able to hold on the base runners with this team's speed that the Diamondbacks have? Now the Rangers don't steal a lot, but you saw at the end of the series against the Astros, they did it when they had to. And the back end of the bullpen for the Diamondbacks too has an upgrade over the Rangers, but the depth was something that I wasn't sure if they would be able to hold in the playoffs. So they've done that. So it'll be interesting to see the chess game that Bruce Bochy and Torey Lovullo will both play. And I think Torey Lovullo has done a lot of the same concepts that Bochy has done with a lot of these pitchers coming out at different spots too. And he's not afraid to use his best pitcher, even if it's not the 9th inning or anything, which is something that's going to be essential in this series. I'm going to go Rangers in 6.